We, as the United States, are sending the wrong message. If it's two states we want, then we need to stop arming and financing Israel.
We continue this conversation now. Joining us is the executive director of Baltimore's Jewish Council, it's Howard Libet. Thanks for coming by, Howard.
Thanks for having me.
You got to hear a lot there, and I want to give you a chance to respond wherever you want to start. But we can start with the U.S. aid to Israel, which Ms. El-Haddad thinks that because of that, there's no chance of a two-state system. What are some of your thoughts on that?
As long as Hamas is in power in Gaza, as long as Hezbollah continues raining rockets onto Israel from the north and Lebanon, it's going to be very hard, no question about it.
Sure.
We need to have a government running the Gaza that at least acknowledges Israel has a right to exist, which we don't have, as opposed to sending terrorists in and continuing to hold hostages, including Americans. All of this is due to Hamas. When you think about their whole war strategy is to build their military infrastructure into schools, underneath hospitals with these tunnels. So the only way for Israel to strike against the terrorists is, unfortunately, to hit civilian targets. They've built it that way. Similarly in Beirut and in Lebanon as well with Hezbollah. And it's a strategy that is unfortunately causing lots of innocent Palestinians, lots of innocent Lebanese to be killed, which is terrible. But the overall goal, if you remove these terrorists from being in power, the everyday Palestinians will benefit just like the Israelis will benefit from not having the threat of terrorists attacking.
Sure. I'll go with the same line of questioning. You've talked to many of people who've come from Israel and come back. I was at a synagogue that you invited me to last year and saw pictures of a kibbutz just riddled with bullets. Tell me about what you've heard from folks in living for the last year.
I mean, it's been hard. When those from Baltimore sent many delegations there, when delegations visit, and you meet the tens of thousands of Israelis who no longer can live in their homes in the north or the south because they're under the constant threat of rockets. The way so many families have been infected because, you know, Israel has this very robust military reserve system. People are called up and are serving. Sure. During this past, probably about 2 months in to the war against Hamas, one of my kids' overnight camp counselors was killed. Wow. And my kids shouldn't have to be experiencing the loss of someone they know in a war, but it's impacted all of us.
What will it take for a ceasefire? We keep inching towards it, and then there's a rocket attack.
It's release the hostages, release the bodies of the hostages who have been killed in the last year, and I think Israel is ready to move forward. But every time we get close, Hamas pulls back. Unfortunately, that's the history of the negotiations with Palestinians over the past decades. We would get close, the U.S. would get close to brokering an agreement for a two-state solution, and the Palestinians would walk away. It's not in their interest to create peace.
We heard in the interview before, help going to families in Gaza. I'm imagining as you send groups from U.S. to Israel, same thing is happening there as well. As much aid as you can to help those on the ground.
And Israel's, I understand it's really complicated with how much aid is getting into Gaza, and no one likes seeing the tragedy of the humanitarian situation and everything. Unfortunately, you look at the history of Gaza in the last 20 years, lots of aid has gone into Gaza. Yeah. And Hamas, instead of investing it in manufacturing opportunities, instead of manufacturing and building the economy, building schools better, building hospitals better, they invested it in this elaborate tunnel system and manufacturing rockets, which we saw all come to the fore on October 7th last year. It's disheartening. And so Israel, like it or not, has to be careful with what aid is getting in, because we know how much of it gets diverted if it can be used for other military purposes.
Only a couple of minutes left. You're coming out of a holiday, I guess a couple of days ago now, when this airs. Was that much of the talk? Was many of the prayers said for?
Absolutely. I think when I was in synagogue, and I'm sure in many synagogues, rabbis' sermons focused on the difficulties of the past year. It's what we're thinking about. Tomorrow night, Monday, we'll be having a large community ceremony to commemorate 1 year with Senator Cardin speaking, as well as a number of others. And it's a really emotional time. You think about the past year, and Rosh Hashanah, the holiday, is supposed to bring joy. And thinking about how everyone's lives have been impacted, you're like, well, I hope the next year's better. None of us, when October 7th happened and all these hostages were taken, none of us imagined that a year later we'd still be talking about so many hostages still being held.
Last one for you, because I asked both of the interviews before, two-state solution. Can it happen?
I still believe it can happen,
okay,
but we need to get Palestinian leadership that's willing to acknowledge and recognize Israel has a right to exist and be willing to come to the table in good faith.
All right, Howard Libet, good to see you as always.
Good to see you. Thanks,
Thanks for
Jason.
coming by.